Why we're here today is to tell you something that you may already know, or you might not know. The question is, who are you? Who were you before you came to this country? Let me ask you a question. When the Africans came over to America, right, what religion did they give the African slaves? The master sat down every Sunday or called together, he had a book over his arm. He taught you about this book, right? But he told you that you were not allowed to read from it, right? Why were the Africans not allowed to read from this book? Quick question, what is the book about? Some say the entire book's about Jesus Christ, is that correct? It's about God. Well, what is the book about? What if I told you this book is actually about a relationship between a God who frees his people from slavery? The entire book, 66 chapters, is about a God who delivers a people who are oppressed.
Over there.
It's about a God who frees people from slavery and then punish those who do so. But let me explain. It's also about a people who caused themselves to go into slavery because they broke God's commandments. From the very book, from the last book, from the first book of Revelation, first book of Genesis, to what they call Chronicles of Malachi, or to use the New Testament, from Matthew to Revelations. Let me show you that. In the first very book, we read about the children of Israel, right? Now watch this. You have to be careful who you decide to feed you. The children of Israel end up in slavery simply because there was a famine in the land. And they went to Egypt, because Israel and Egypt are right near each other. You can stand them on like this. And the children of Israel were going to Egypt looking for food. Eventually Joseph was in Egypt, he helped rule Egypt. The children of Israel was in Egypt, and eventually another man, another leader took over who didn't know Joseph. And for 210, 213 years, they enslaved the children of Israel along with other Africans. Right? For 200 what? 10 to 13. Right? Then, here's the deliverer. Now the people, their sons are being murdered. Why? Because we're afraid for them to what? Populate. Listen, 1970s, they're afraid of that. They're afraid for them to populate, to grow. So what happened when what was the fear about them populating? That they would join who? The enemies and take over. That happens with Israel. Yeladim Israel. So what happened was, Moses was born. What I'm telling you is that there is no need for a deliverer if everything's fine. So a deliverer, a Messiah, a king, a leader only comes when Israel or the people have no leadership. Then suddenly Moses is born, right? And then he delivers the children of Israel out of Egypt. Watch this. The children of Israel go back in slavery because they violate God's law. And they go in slavery by the Assyrians. The northern tribe goes into slavery in the Assyrians. That's very important. Within later, the 6th century BC, the south tribe goes into slavery by the Babylonians. The Greeks came over. Then the Romans came over. The entire Bible is about a people who are constantly in slavery because they don't follow God's laws. During the time of Jesus, who was the people in charge? The Roman Empire. Remember that Jesus is sentenced to death because he's saying that he's the king of the Jews, and he said there's no other king but who? Caesar. So now Jesus is warring against Caesar. He's sentenced to death for sedition. Does the slavery stop? What people destroyed the Roman Empire? What people destroyed the Roman Empire? Who? No, because in 70 AD, the Hebrews were taken into slavery and were dispersed out of Israel in 70 AD. Some were killed. Who destroyed the Roman Empire?
No, I don't know, but I have a question to this man's statement.
Yeah.
I don't think
Constantine was a part of the Roman Empire. He didn't destroy it.
I don't think that Jesus ever said that he was a king of the Jews.
No, they said that he was king of Jews. Yeah, that's what they said. He never said he was king of the Jews. They said it. The point I'm saying is, who destroyed the Roman Empire? Real easy. It was the Europeans. They were called the Gothics. All right, 10 tribes. This coincides the revelations of Daniel chapter 7, the vision of the 4 beasts being Rome and 10 kingdoms. There were 10 Gothic tribes. Those tribes today become the 10 European nations. Ostrogoths, Vascots, Vandals. Let's use their modern names. English, West Germany, East Germany, France. So today the world is run by who? The Europeans. and they're the ones that destroyed the Roman Empire. Interestingly, when they destroyed the Roman Empire in 500 AD, it says it's the beginning of the what ages? The Dark Ages. Why is it when the Europeans took over, it was the beginning of the Dark Ages? Because the Europeans, according to the Romans, were savages. They didn't know how to read. They didn't know how to write. They were uncivilized. It's not my words. I can read it to you from the word history. This is the view of the Romans. They said the only thing they were good for was fighting in war. What do you see today? Now, don't get me wrong. We do not believe or uphold racism. We're not talking about racism. Right. We're talking about truth. But some Africans are off the chain too. That's right. So I'm not going to sit there and try to play Europeans with this, because Europeans at one point were Africans. We all came from Northeast Africa, so let's not get it twisted. That's right. So what I'm saying to you is that the children of Israel were dispersed. Where did they go? Quick question. If you read the Bible, where did the children of Israel always go when they were in trouble? Where did they always go? Quick question. When Joseph and Mary, Jesus was a baby, right? About almost 2 years old. Where did they go to? They went to where? Egypt. Egypt. Where did Abraham go when he needed food? Where did he run to? Egypt. Egypt. Where did Joseph was sent to? Where did children? They went to what? Egypt. Even the book of Jeremiah says that Jeremiah the prophet told the Israelites, don't flee into Egypt. So I want to show that we always ran into Egypt, Africa. So in 70 AD, when the Romans come down, let's go to Acts chapter 2. Acts chapter 2 says, on the day of Pentecost, there were Jews from where? All over the world, right? And they said they came up the day of Pentecost, which is a feast. I want to point out that if you read the countries they came from, they only didn't come from Mesopotamia and Asia. There was actually 3 to 4 countries from Africa, Libya, Egypt, Ethiopia. So they came up. Quick question. The book of Genesis chapter 15 or chapter 13 says that Abraham had a dream. God said that Abraham had a dream, Moses writing, that he saw his children enslaved for how many years? 400 years. Quick question, how long were African Americans enslaved? 400 years. Watch this. The first ship that comes from England is called Good Ship Jesus. All right? I want to point out that this ship sailed in 1560 what? 1563. Let's count 400 years in the future. What happened 40 years ago in 1963? What happened between the year of 1963 to 1967? There was a man who died this very day. What was his name? And what happened in 1963, 1967 was the first time a letter was written saying, stop the desegregation, stop the oppression. 400 years. I want to point out, though the Emancipation Proclamation took in effect in 1863, there were Africans still enslaved, correct? In states like Texas and New Mexico. And then we had black code laws. So slavery lasted for that long. Even to this day, in 1960 and 1950s, blacks worked in businesses, they didn't get paid the same amount. So if the children of Israel enslaved for 400 years, is God a liar? So when will that prophecy happen? Now, the question is this, not to make it mythical. A lot of you don't even know that many of you that came to these shores because you were kidnapped were descendants of the children of Israel. No question. Now, let's back it up. Let's back it up so don't get confused. Watch this. The children of Israel settled in Egypt, from Egypt to Sudan, in Ethiopia, and they traveled below the Sahara Desert and settled in West Africa. Then you said some Hebrews that were in North Africa that came around Morocco, Libya, Algeria. And remember that the same day that Christopher Columbus sails for America, it's called the Spanish Inquisition, correct? Right. That was August 2nd, right? What was the date that he sailed for America? He didn't know. Right? Now, watch this. Do you know what Spanish Inquisition was? The Spanish Inquisition was a King Ferdinand and Queen Isabella kicking out who? Hebrews, Jews, and Muslims out of Spain. Well, where did they go? They went into Africa, because Spain, Africa, only a difference of 90-mile difference from them. They went into Africa. They sailed into Morocco and West Africa. Some went to the Americas, some went to the islands. So when in the same period Hebrews are there, something terrible happened. The Europeans came and decided, let's treat Africa like a buffet. And they predominantly took only West Africans from Cameroon all the way to Sierra Leone. Now, yes.
Why do they, a lot of times they portray, they kick the white Jews. You never see this.
I'll answer that question right now. And listen to this. I want to say this to you, very important. Let's get away from this. Jews are not white and Jews are not black.
Amen.
Okay? Jews are not, you are Jew.
You're a Jew.
Yeah, but
I'm
I'm a Jewish Turk.
Okay. No,
No. I'm not.
Don't speak Hebrew.
No.
Okay. So what happened is Jew is not black and Jew is not white.
Right.
Jew are people that come from Judea. So let's get away from the race and the racism. We got to stop using these terms that divide us. Because the scripture says that Israel was like a spotted bird of different colors. There were Jews that were dark and Jews that were light. We need to pull away from racism. We need to stop using words like black. That's foolishness.
That's foolishness, yes, sir.
And like white, because I've never met a white person.
Yes, sir.
I never met, and I see some dark-skinned brothers, but they're purple, but they're never black. Okay?
That's right.
The actual color of man was Adam, was red. So if you take red and you make it darker, it turns what? Brown. You take red, you make it lighter, it becomes what? Pink. Those are the colors of people. So we got to pull away from racism.
That's right.
We got to pull away from all these isms that divide us. We have to stop hating and putting our women down. Right, and then have a woman that produce children that hate us. It's a dangerous cycle. We have to start showing love to our communities. Each one of y'all need to go and reconcile with your parents if they're still alive. And then each of y'all need to find the woman you don't have children, or you know you got some kids from that woman. Try to act like it's not yours. She got that child got your big nose and big eyes. So what I'm saying to you today is that if you look up Ancestry.com, who ever heard of Ancestry.com? Ancestry.com has just released an article that they're able to actually trace the DNA of every African American to where they came from in West Africa. They said there's 6 subgroups. Now watch this, the majority of Africans that came from slavery came from Nigeria and Ghana. And towards the end of it, they came from Ivory Coast all the way up to Sierra Leone. Do you know that in Ghana today, there are Hebrew tribes called the Iwe? There's Hebrew tribes called the Igbo. There's Hebrew tribes throughout West Africa that right now know who they are. But the children of Israel who came over here have no idea where they came from. Now watch this. Who wrote the Bible? Okay, let's not be mythical. Who wrote the Bible? It was men. What kind of men? Multiple men. They were Hebrew men. They were Hebrew men, right? So how does a European take a Hebrew book, enslave you, and keep you from reading it when the whole book is about how a God delivers slaves? Why do you think they didn't want you to read the book? The entire book is about how a God helped David defeat Goliath, how Moses defeat the Egyptians, how Daniel stood in the courts of Nebuchadnezzar and they said we must follow Daniel. Daniel was a slave. What I'm trying to tell you is that your ancestors were not only ancestors of African people, but some of them were descendants of the Hebrew people.
No question.
This is not debatable.
No,
this is scientific proof.
Yes.
Now the question is, what are you going to do with this information? You keep on going down the same path? You wonder why that we're #1 in cancer, #1 in HIV, #1 in STDs, #1 in diabetes. How are we #1 in the worst things in the world, but yet we only make up less than 10% of Americans? Because we are turning our backs against God and the God of Israel. And we're taking on. So quick question, if you were enslaved and you were free as a slave, what religion and lifestyle did the slaves keep after they were freed? Wasn't it the religion lifestyle of their master? Now you're wondering why the church is getting bigger and you're getting sicker. You think they would give you a religion that will free you? You think they'll give you a man of worship that will free you? So when Africans were then freed as slaves, they still follow the lifestyle religion of their slave master. He's telling the children of Israel before he dies, he prophesied to them and say, know of a surety, if you turn your hearts away from God. The book of Deuteronomy chapter 28 verse 45 to 47 and then verse 68 says, you shall go in slavery in ships to a land that your fathers did not know. A land at the end of the earth. Quick question. What was the country that was considered the end of the earth 400 years ago? The New World. The New World. Where's the New World? Here. It says the country shall come against you shall be as the eagle flies. What's the symbol of America's government? Eagle. He says that you shall go in slavery and you will not come back for 400 years. Almost. Right? Now, the first slave ship, 1563. How long have Africans been in slavery? 400. So is God a liar? So since Moses wrote that prophecy after he already delivered the children of Israel from Egypt, we know that prophecy is a futuristic prophecy. It was written in Genesis where it said 400 years with Abraham's vision. So it's time for you to wake up. Last thing, there's a judgment and destruction that has to happen to a land and a government of people who do wickedness. It's scientifically, mathematically proven. You don't want to be here when destruction comes. Scientifically, your body's connected to the planet. When you do evil, you cause the planet to turn against you. So what happened, tornadoes will come, earthquake will come, water will come. Why? Because your body is made from the same exact element of the planet. When you're sick, you detox. Mucus comes out. You start to sneeze. That's telling you that your body is sick. Now the earth is sick. What is it doing? It's sneezing. It's coughing. It's detoxing. It's going to destroy whatever destroys it. Because the Creator made a planet that was connected to us and we connected to it. If we don't take care of it, it will then push us out and find a new generation to take care of it. So what am I saying to you? What I'm saying to you is this. We're here to let you understand who you are. Now, don't get it twisted. I'm not saying every single one is a Hebrew. I'm saying the Hebrews were taking slavery. But the fact of how they breed us so much, the lines are on cross that's in there. So what do you do with this? You got to turn back your hearts to Jerusalem.